Hey everybody, Mr. Bubbit here. Took a couple of days off to read a little bit ahead so I know where the book's going because it's been a while since I've read it. And just took some time to kind of relax. It's summer. But I'm super excited to meet with our book club this coming Friday. And so let's jump in. We're going to read several chapters today so you have about a week or so, a couple days to catch up and get with us to chapter 15. This is chapter 8, the chapter right after PSB 11. And remember, that chapter ends with Delphine writing to her mom. She's having a hard time processing what to do. She's got this new relationship with her mother, her real mother, and now her father is starting to date someone else, and she's just kind of conflicted on what to do about it. So she writes her mom, and her mom says, those feelings are mine. You need to be 11. Trying to tell Delphine to kind of relax and focus on things that, focus on what you like to do and focus on you. This chapter is called Meeting Miss Hendricks. Things were back to normal if Pa whistling was normal. Big Ma fell asleep in her chair during Peyton Place with a movie star newspaper in her lap underneath her Bible. I mopped the kitchen floor. My sisters took their baths. I got used to Pa's new face and whistling, that he worked from early morning and was home in time for supper most days. No more working all day and all night for Pa. No more long, tired faces. It was all because of Miss Marva Hendricks, his lady friend in Brownsville on the other side of Atlantic Avenue. I should have been glad my father's dimple showed when he smiled and that he wasn't tired from working day and night. I should have been glad my father had a spring in his step and took his new shirts to the cleaners. I should have danced the jig and said, "Less shirts for me to wash. Bring out starch and iron." If Pa was happy, then I should be happy too. But I wasn't. One night after dinner, Pa said, "I think it's time you met Marva." Yes, the time has come. He had used the same voice and the same words to tell us we were flying to Oakland to reunite with our mother. He said it was a thing whose time had come. When he spoke those words about Cecil, he was long-faced and serious. When he said them about Miss Marva Hendricks, he was light-hearted and ready for some teasing, at least from Vanetta and Fern. I tried not to be an old wet sock, but I didn't feel like teasing. I felt like time had come too soon. Before I could properly sulk about it, the doorbell rang and Pa was smiling and springing up out of his chair. Vanetta and Fern tap danced in their tennis shoes until Big Ma warned them to stop acting like a bunch of untrained chimps and to not shame Pa. He brought his lady friend inside, like how the church ushers brought a visiting guest to the special pew up front. Miss Marva Hendricks was what magazines call petite. Her afro was Angela Davis big, but curly, like she spent a lot of time rolling it up the night before and picking it out. Her dress and shoes were snappy and mod, like Miss Honeywell's, my soon-to-be 6th grade teacher. She wore eyeshadow too, light and bright for her skin color, in my opinion. Her lashes were coated with mascara, and her eyebrows were thick but plucked to form a steep IC arch. Her nails were icy blue like her eyeshadow. Miss Marva Hendricks was everything my mother wasn't. Big Ma and I must have thought about the same thing. Miss Marva Hendricks was almost out of a fashion magazine. No wonder my father wore brand new shirts that he had only trusted with the cleaners. I didn't like her before I'd seen her. Now that I saw her, nothing had changed. "Mama, darling daughters," this got an eye roll from Big Ma. "I'd like you to meet..." Oops, sorry, lost my place. "I'd like you to meet..." Heckle and Jekyll giggled and shook, and I wished they'd be still. After not having a mother for so long, we had finally met and hugged our mother and lived in her house and said her poetry and cleaned up her kitchen and gathered up her papers and moved her movable type pieces after the police messed up her workspace. We had just met, hugged, and maybe even loved our mother smelled the coconut oil in her big braids, and there my sisters were, wiggling like worms in a bait box. Miss Marva Hendricks, Pa said proudly. I knew better than to cross my arms and roll my eyes. I knew better, but I couldn't help myself. My forearms bolted across my chest, each hand clamped fast around my arm muscles. I at least had enough sense to not roll my eyes. I said, "Nice to meet you, Miss Hendricks." "Marva," she offered. "Miss Marva Hendricks," I said. Big Ma's firm nod told me not to forget my home training, no matter what Pa's lady friend said. "That's Delphine, my oldest," Pa said, although looking at us, there was no need to offer that open-faced fact. "This is..." Vanetta shot up, curtsied, and said in her best showy and crowy voice, "I'm Vanetta, the middle." Fern did Vanetta one better, daintily holding out her skirt hem as if it wore a hoop skirt, and said, "I'm Fern, but my mother calls me Afua." She curtsied on the Afua. Miss Hendricks smiled and nodded, a kind of bow to Fern's curtsy. "Which do you prefer, Fern or Afua?" "You can call me Fern." Then she added, "Only my mother calls me Afua." I envied my baby sister. I wish I could just say things. Did she know she had just told Pa's lady friend that she was not her mother? Miss Marva Hendricks didn't seem to mind. Perhaps it was that Fern was still little and sweet-voiced. Her eyes were bright and aimed to please. Big Ma, however, was none too pleased by Fern's owning up to her Ooga Mooga name. But Fern's words had given me a spark, and I felt a little better. Miss Marva Hendricks tugged at Pa's shirt, looking up at him, while batting her heavy eyelashes, and said, "No time like the present, Lou." Her voice was sing-songy, but I could hear her telling my father, not asking. Pa seemed to agree. He smiled at her, turned to Big Ma, and said, "Ma?" Then he said, "Girls," and turned to each of us, me first, Vanetta, and then Fern. "I've asked Marva to be my wife." Vanetta and Fern squealed. Big Ma put on a polite smile. My father's words ran through me like something I shouldn't have eaten. I felt weak down to my toes and warm all over. Somehow, I managed to do like Big Ma. I put on a polite smile and said, "That's nice, Papa." I didn't know what else to say. What else do you say when your father announces he's getting married? What do you say when you don't like his lady friend? Can't possibly ever like her. But you don't dare shame your pa, Big Ma, or as Big Ma would say, all the Charleses, Gaithers, and Trotters in Prattville, Alabama. What can you do when your lip is dropped into a mile-long pout while everyone else is happy? Or at least being polite. You put on a smile, you say it again. "That's nice, Pa. Very nice." Because none of Miss Merriam-Webster's words will show up in time to save you. You remember how Miss Peterson forbade the use of the word very in every report because very was fine for fourth graders but too lazy for fifth graders. Yet here you are, getting ready to start the sixth grade using fourth grade words. You can't help yourself and add another very. Very, very nice, Pa. "You asked her to be your wife?" Vanetta asked. "What did she say?" It was clear to me, but Fern asked, "Will she?" Miss Marva Hendricks extended her hand to show the 2 white stones on her ring finger. "I told your father I will." Big Ma said, "My, isn't that pretty?" She was still being polite, good old Big Ma. Vanetta and Fern stared at and started another bout of squealing. My old papa would have reeled in their noise. My new papa let Vanetta's and Fern's excitement run wild. New Pa bent down and gave Miss Hendricks a smack on the lips to encourage Vanetta and Fern, who obliged him with a lot of high-pitched oohing. Then Big Ma told Pa and his lady friend, "That's enough of that. You're not married yet." Even so, she said to Miss Hendricks, "Welcome to the family, Marva, dear," as nicely as she could, but she didn't give her a big hug. Later that night, when we were all sitting on my bed, Vanetta announced, "I'm the flower girl." "Me too," cried Fern. "I called it first. But I'm the younger and shorter, and you're too big. You're a big fourth grader." I stared at them in a Cecil-like disbelief. How could my own sisters go on and on about being flower girls, wearing pink satin dresses, and getting their hair pressed and curled for Papa's wedding to another woman? How could they fight over Cecil's postcard one day and throw their mother away without the care? How could they fight over Cecil's postcard one day and throw their mother away without a care the next day? Soon enough, my sister's wedding plans turned into arguing over how to throw rose petals. I couldn't take another word of it. "Y'all need to quit it," I said. "Pa and Miss Hendricks are too old to have a fairy tale wedding with flower girls and harp playing." But Fern heard harps playing. She ballet teetered on her toes to the harp strings plucking in her head, and Vanetta joined her, twirling and leaping. I watched my own sisters through my mother's eyes, happily dancing this woman into our house. And that is the end of meeting Miss Marva Hendricks. So Big Pa is getting married to this new woman that they just met. They found out all at the same time. Sounds kind of crazy. And it seems that like Delphine's kind of struggling with this. She doesn't know what to make of it. You know, the chapter before she wrote her mom, and this chapter now she's grappling with a new relationship. And now she just found out they're getting married, so it's a lot for her to take in and process. But we will pick up with chapter 9, To and From Cecil, next time, all right? Be good.